$50 million for fading. Kamla knocks increased spending by Prime Minister's office in budget reply. The allocation for entertainment and functions hosted by the Prime Minister's office has been increased from $890,000 in 2024 to $50 million in 2025. Opposition leader Kamla Persad yesterday zeroed in on this massive increase, accusing the Prime Minister of fading in his election year while telling the rest of the country to hold strain. In her budget reply titled, "A Decade of Debts, Deficits, Destabilization, Death and Destruction," delivered in the House of Representatives at the Red House, Port of Spain, she also questioned the allocation of $400 million for unknown buildings under the prime ministerial vote. As she trained her guns on the prime minister, Persad contrasted the $50 million allocation for parties hosted by the office of the prime minister with a measly $1 million allocated for strengthening child protection systems in the country to combat pedophiles. But we know that this PNM government does not care about child protection systems because PNM officials have been repeatedly accused of being involved in a pedophile ring, she added. For this government, there ain't no party like a Diddy party, the opposition leader quipped. In her budget reply, which lasted 3 hours and 40 minutes, Persad slammed the Prime Minister, the chosen one, Energy Minister, Stuart Young, and the Finance Minister, Coleman Burt. Bert's budget presentation on Monday was 5 hours and 13 minutes long. Persad said the allocation of $30 million for official entertainment by the Office of the Prime Minister in 2025 represented an increase of $29.76 million over the last 2024 fiscal year when it was a mere $240,000, and that the $20 million allocation for the hosting of functions by the Office of the Prime Minister in 2025 represented an increase of $19.35 million over the previous year's allocation of $650,000. $50 million for fading, added to the previous $70 million for a mansion, Prime Minister's official residence, in Tobago, $3 million for paintings to watch, and $10.6 million in foreign trips since 2020. Clearly, the economy is good for the Prime Minister, the opposition leader said. In contrast, in the 2025 draft estimates of development program, strengthening of the child care and child protection systems in Trinidad and Tobago, a measly $1 million was allocated, she said. And you know who is invited to the $50 million fetes at the PM's residence? The same government representatives, pedophile bigwigs, pseudo-intellectuals, and the eat-off-food elite who made glib and shallow commentary on the budget, she said. Persad advised the Prime Minister to take it easy on the fading because the last time he faded too much, it was in a pan yard and he passed out flat on the ground and had to be rescued by the great men and women of the TTPS Special Branch. $400 million for unknown buildings. With respect to the $400 allocation for unknown buildings, Persad said that under the 2025 development program estimates, under the Office of the Prime Minister, there was a vague description of construction of building. What buildings is the Office of the Prime Minister constructing for $400 million? In 2024, $48 million was allocated in the IDF, Infrastructure Development Fund, to the OPM. In 2025, an election year, this increased by $403 million to $452 million, she said. By comparison, in the development program, $0 were allocated under the Ministry of Trade for the development of the creative industries, zilch for the development of the music industry, 0 for the film industry, and 0 for the fashion industry, industries that the young people are interested in, she added. Persad said that health care, the concern second only to crime for the population, continued to be an abysmal failure after $56.8 billion was spent since 2015. She said while the Minister of Health was boasting about health care, the bigwigs in the dance were flying out for health care overseas. She said the Prime Minister flew out with 4 of his golfing partners. I guess they all went for medical checkups, she said, tongue-in-cheek. After 9 years, besides golfing, we have a Prime Minister with no achievement to his name. Both on the golf course and on the job, it's only bogey amateur play, double bogey, triple bogey, and quadruple bogey on his scorecard, she said. She said the Prime Minister, who describes himself as the #1 salesman, hadn't made a single sale in 9 years to benefit the citizens, and instead had a tragic history of failures. Never forget such a salesman he is that together with the chosen one, Minister Young, negotiated gas prices with multinational executives in Houston where they were outsmarted, tied up like hairy-legged crabs, and sent back home, the opposition leader said. Where is the Prime Minister's plywood factory, the Prime Minister's sandals, the Prime Minister's Toko Highway, the not-so-insignificant sum of money from Bill Gates that the Prime Minister said he was getting? Why are we not hearing about Dragon Gas, the Toko Port, and La Brea dry docks that the Prime Minister promised? Has the Prime Minister got pip? She asked. The opposition leader asked what was there to show for the $32.58 million allocated to the office of the Prime Minister for cabinet-appointed bodies in fiscal 2024 and $35.789 million to be spent under this heading in fiscal 2025. Ministers on Ozempic, almond milk. Saying that crime was the only industry that was growing, Persad added that the Prime Minister still arrogantly persists with his sleeping Minister of National Insecurity, perpetuating citizens' misery. Imagine, the member for St. Joseph was robbed outside a rum shop at 5 p.m. on a Monday. Following his complaint of crime, members of the public who are fed up with 9 years of violent crime are saying the minister should drink his rum and get out of their faces. I wouldn't say that. I would say the minister only knows this is where crime reach. That is the only man ever robbed and left with his wallet and cell phone to call, she said, adding, the health minister is either weeping, shedding tears, or liming outside rum shops while the health minister has become a minister of death. With respect to national security, Persad said that after over $530 billion, more than $500 billion of taxpayers' money was spent, the violent, unprecedented crime crisis continues to grow. That is the legacy of the PNM government, perpetuating national misery, she said. Persad ascribed different words and meaning to the acronym PNM throughout her presentation, among them, PNM, priorities never met, people's needs marginalized, pain, neglect, and misery. Pressure no money, promises never materialize, propaganda not management, people never matter. Plundering national money, projects not moving, and public needs mismanaged. She said she is inclined to repeat the government's own words, used by Sports Minister Shamfa Cudjoe, "You are in charge, deal with it." She said while ministers enjoyed Ozempic and almond milk, they tell the population that there is no money for them to eat macaroni pie.